Get that paper, told that Glock, that's how we live. Yeah, my life's a game, I pray I don't get killed. They can't believe I got the guap, this shit for real. Can't accept the fact my brother gone, I wanna kill. Yeah, I can't go for that shit don't sit right. Instead of cabin to the old nigga, I know what you live like. Ain't worried about ops, just fuck these hoes and live life. I grown the drill, I'm smart enough, you gotta know how to kill.
The story actually remains the same, with Tanjiro and his family living within the mountains. However, that very same night that he was supposed to return to his family, a blizzard hit. The snowstorm was so heavy that he couldn't see. And looking ahead, a family friend's cabin wasn't too far from him, but he had turned his head back to the direction of his own home, thinking to himself, I need to make it back home. The others are counting on me. Tanjiro wills himself to push forward in the storm, and it eventually covers his body, causing him to fall to the ground. He can't even move as he passes out, feeling sorry that he couldn't make it to them. But while asleep, within the storm, he felt so cold. However, while everything was still, he could only feel the darkness and hear a voice. Tanjiro. 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 A familiar voice continues to call his name. Eventually, Tanjiro responds. Father. Is that you? Yes, my son. It is. Now go help them. They need you more than ever. Tanjiro pulls his head from the snow, taking a breath of fresh air and seeing the clear sky. As he was somehow alive, not believing it. He doesn't feel like he has hypothermia or anything like that. He doesn't feel sick. In fact, he feels even stronger because of the cold. He sprints forward, not even thinking. His body was buried in snow, but his strength had risen at this moment. Was this his instinct? Or maybe his own survival mechanism that was built into every human as it kicked in this moment? Tanjiro then makes it to his home, seeing blood everywhere. He had smelt it while running up, but he wished that he was wrong, just for this once. Stepping inside the home, he stood in fear as a demon was right in front of him and remained eating what was left of his family. Still, it had seemed that most of their bodies were intact except for some limbs. He then hears a small noise to his left, and it's Nezuko as she's still breathing, but just a little bit. The demon noticed it as well and stepped towards her. Tanjiro thought to himself, He doesn't see me? No, I need to save her before anything else happens. Tanjiro grabs the axe off the wall and looks toward the demon. Moments later, Giyu, the water Hashira, arrives. Seeing the boy holding his unconscious sister, he walks up to him. However, he saw the claws of the demon, who was asleep. This girl. She's a demon. Move aside. I must slay her. Giyu places his hand on his blade, but then feels something cold. It's like the air around the room had shifted. What is that? No. Could it be coming from him? Looking down at Tanjiro, he could feel the bloodlust. But then the boy speaks. I'm going to say this once, and only once. I killed whatever was in here that killed my family. I don't know what happened, but it seems my sister is no longer the same. However, I want to save her, as she is the only family that I have left. And if you stand in the way of that, I'll have to cut you down as well. Hearing these words caused Giyu to turn his head, seeing the demon that was against the wall and ripped apart, but slowly fading away. If this boy did this with no training at all, he might have the potential to become a Hashira. But just what was that cold feeling just now? Giyu tells Tanjiro that he can help him out, and Tanjiro stands up. This Tanjiro had a little more coldness to him, due to the storm freezing not only his body but his heart as well. Turning around, Giyu saw a piece of ice that was covering his forehead. Huh, that's strange. Maybe it's some sort of awakening. But if his sister has been turned, we might need to get rid of her. Looking down at the siblings, Giyu changes his mind, gaining hope. He ties the girl up, putting her in a small pouch. I'll take you to him. To who? My master. He's the only one who can help us. You have great potential as a warrior, and if you want to save your sister, you must train in order to become a demon slayer. All of this sounded like another language to the young boy, but he focused on saving his sister. Giyu guides him on a path to find Urokodaki and allows the boy to continue the journey on his own. While crossing a mountain path, Tanjiro smells blood, instantly sprinting that way with Nezuko on his back. His body moved on its own, and his mind was blank. He fell back into this zone of combat when he stepped into the house. The demon felt as if it couldn't breathe due to the coldness and sharpness of the air. What is this? And who is this boy? Tanjiro instantly vanishes, appearing near the side of the demon and swinging his axe. Severing its head from its body, the demon will continue to talk. Looking down, wondering what he should do, Tanjiro remembers what happened to the other demon. Because once the sun rose on the mountain, it slowly vanished away. So Tanjiro grabs the head of the demon, walking outside and tossing it into the light where it would be burned. Before Urokodaki could even place a hand on the boy's shoulder, Tanjiro flipped away with his guard up. Your senses are sharp, boy. It seems my student wasn't wrong about you at all. Urokodaki introduces himself to the boy and exclaims how they have much work to do and to follow him. While he states this, he also explains the true nature of the demon slayers and how his sister was turned. Urokodaki tells Tanjiro of the greatest demon, Muzan, who most likely killed his family and turned his sister into a demon. Tanjiro then explains how the demon he killed must have been a cover-up, and Urokodaki was shocked. Already, with no training at all, this boy was able to kill 2 lesser demons with just an axe, not even a blade. It seems the gods may be in our favor with another prodigy. However, that scar among his head, that must be something else. Tanjiro, was your father a swordsman of any sort? Tanjiro looked at him while walking and explains how his father was a frail old man, but he was still incredibly strong, even taking down a bear with this very same axe. Urokodaki questioned further, believing Tanjiro's family to be descendants of some sort of warrior clan who transformed to live in peace. Tanjiro can't remember anything like that being told to him, but he does claim his father might have been one when he was younger, just never told them. Although he did this strange dance, but it's all foggy within Tanjiro's memory. Urokodaki doesn't press any further, as they have now reached the place where Tanjiro will train. As Nezuko had fallen asleep for some reason, Tanjiro began his own training. The obstacle course, of course, was no joke at all. Each step was filled with another attack that left Tanjiro dodging and ducking, being hit over and over by incoming logs or arrows. Tanjiro was in for more than he had bargained for. Still, he focused solely on his incoming future. If he couldn't complete this, then he would never be able to save his sister, who was counting on him. Continuing ahead, Tanjiro kept going no matter what it took. Months and months began to pass before he would even get halfway down the mountain consistently. Once he began to make that progress, everything else began to flow. Then began his training with Urokodaki and on the blade. Getting bested every time by a master was frustrating to Tanjiro, but he remained positive, only focusing on the good that he was doing. Time continued to go by unexpectedly, as soon he was facing his final challenge. Urokodaki walked him over to a large boulder, telling Tanjiro to split it with his own strength. Urokodaki then vanishes from the area, and Tanjiro prepares to swing. However, someone catches his hand, asking him a question. Why do you seek strength? Tanjiro looks forward at the teen with a fox mask on, asking who he was. Then, he punches Tanjiro and unsheathes his own blade, which was actually a wooden blade. Tanjiro notes that that punch was powerful, but he has to block this next slash that was incoming. Answer the question. Why do you seek strength? To save my sister. The boy in the fox mask begins to jump back towards the rock and points this wooden blade at Tanjiro. He's going easy on me, isn't he? And wait, who is that? He then sees the girl as they would introduce themselves. As the girl states she is Makomo, while the boy states his name is Sabito. From this point on, they will train Tanjiro, as Sabito exclaims that there is no way for Tanjiro to control the tides of water and master its breathing style. He states Tanjiro has something greater within him to master, and through their battles he will unlock it. Thus began another stage in Tanjiro's training that went on for some time until their final battle was set, as this time, Sabito reveals his true katana, telling Tanjiro to ready himself. Tanjiro takes a deep breath and focuses on what was right in front of him. To win here was something he needed more than ever. Rushing forward, each of them swings their blade, but Tanjiro's reaches first, and Sabito's mask is cut off. Our protagonist then turns his head to see that the boulder had been split, and he looks around for the duo, but he can't find them at all. So instead, he thanks Sabito and Makomo for helping him out and conquer the coldness within his heart to become even stronger. With that being done now, Tanjiro returns to Urokodaki, exclaiming he was ready to take the final selection. A custom outfit was given to him with snowflakes on its robes, as Tanjiro headed off for the selection, more ready than ever before. Arriving to the area where the test would be held, there were many in attendance. The beautiful area astonished Tanjiro, taking his gaze away from everything but the scenery around him. The siblings in front of him explained to the participants how the test worked and how they must survive until the sun rises once again. Tanjiro claims it shouldn't be too difficult and enters the forest without a second thought at all. Taking a step forward, Tanjiro notes how usually when he was younger, he'd be tense in similar situations to this, but now, his heart was calm. This is when a demon from behind a tree jumps at him, but was sliced in half by his katana. Tanjiro then runs ahead while defeating demons in the forest, not allowing himself to take a break or anything like that. While walking later, he comes across the hand demon, which was larger than most and stared down at him. The demon began speaking, noticing the style of the robes, saying how it must be another student of Urokodaki, causing Tanjiro to get serious. Now, we can take a break here, as I did forget to say this in the beginning of my video, but within all my Demon Slayer what-ifs, the breathing techniques are real, and so are the effects. It just makes my all-around story more enjoyable for me and you. Back to it. As the demon continues to taunt the boy, ice begins to surround the area, eventually covering his feet, not allowing for any movement. Frost breathing. Fifth form. Frozen wasteland. With the surrounding area fully being covered in ice, the demon could do nothing. Noting that this one was different from the rest, so he prepared to attack, but instantly lost sight of Tanjiro. The boy had already appeared on the tree branch behind him. Second form. Snowstorm barrage. Cutting through the demon with ease, Tanjiro begins looking at it while it retaliates, attacking him back, so he begins running on its arms while slicing through them, cutting the demon all over its body with the second form. It could do nothing, as the ice slowly began to cover its body. The demon, almost at one point, couldn't move at all, not even its arms. This is when its head will be sliced off, and it slowly begins fading away while looking at Tanjiro. Be set free from everything that you have done. Rest easy. You don't have to hurt anyone else. The demon for some reason began crying, thanking Tanjiro, and he continued to make his way through the forest until the sun began rising again. As he returns to the starting point, to only see that a few others had made it as well. This is all who passed? But how? Tanjiro then wishes that he could have saved some of them, but now was no time for that. They began choosing their ore that would be crafted into a blade, and then they were also given their crows. Returning back to Urokodaki, he was excited to see that his sister was awake. Not only that, but Urokodaki was happy to see him returning, saying that this was only the beginning for the young boy, as he knows what he needs to do in order to become even stronger. A couple of weeks fly by as the blacksmith would bring his sword. Tanjiro then focuses on the hill as they would all stare. He was so zoned in he didn't even pull out the blade. And then, as he finally unsheathes it, pointing it to the sky, it turns black, shocking the two of them as they note that this was a bad omen. But Tanjiro still believes it was a sign that he'll be greater than ever. He thanks the master and his blacksmith for believing in him, and he gathers his things, beginning to get ready to head out into the world. Tanjiro begins his travels, and his crow soon finds him. It alerts him of a nearby village where a demon is there, and he must slay it. Running towards that direction, he would soon arrive, hearing the rumors. Different people stating that at night girls were being taken and never heard from again. Here, Tanjiro was more relaxed and laid back, staying hidden and analyzing the rumors and the leads that he gains. Beginning to follow the direction of the demon's scent, Tanjiro was preparing himself for a battle. At night, as the girl was about to be taken, Ice then creeped into the room and froze the demon's arms in place. Not this time. Slicing his head off in a quick move, Tanjiro believed the battle was over. However, more demons came from dark holes that appeared within the walls. There are 2 more of them. Tanjiro, more focused on what he needed to do, had to block one, but still, his blind side was open. This is when Nezuko came to his aid. And Nezuko would actually continue to protect the girl while Tanjiro leaps in after the demons, having to hold his breath, now being encased in some water domain. He blocked attacks from either side as he was constantly being hit. Tanjiro noted that this would be troublesome as he can't hold his breath in this area forever. He needed to think quick of something to do right now. Tanjiro then watches as both of them come at him to land the killing blow. Instead, he takes a breath, yelling, "Frost breathing, 5th form, frozen wasteland." Within the entire battlefield of water that was around Tanjiro, turning into ice, the demons are forced to flee, and Tanjiro is able to chase after them onto dry land, which was basically the surface once again. However, each one of them has a piece of ice that was now on their body and slowly began spreading. This was just an effect of being hit by his frost breathing attacks. Tanjiro takes a step and the air around him begins to shift. Suddenly, each demon respectively drops to the ground and begins to fade. Tanjiro then stands over him, with his face bruised and his body cut just a little bit. He smirks as the townspeople appear, hearing the commotion. However, he vanishes, going to grab Nezuko, preparing for what could be next. As while he awaits his crow, Tanjiro continuously trains to master frost breathing. And while training, his crow appears, stating how it's hard to get in contact with him because he's not easily found. Tanjiro wonders what he was talking about, but then was given his next mission, to head to Akusa, Tokyo. Rumors of a demon hiding in plain sight were there. Tanjiro nods and begins gathering his things to head that way. When entering the city, Tanjiro was blinded by the bright lights and all of the distractions. To find a demon in a place like this would be nearly impossible under the normal circumstances. Still, he takes Nezuko away from the crowd and goes to get her a snack. They continue to eat and enjoy it until Tanjiro's nose picks up a familiar scent. It gives him quick flashbacks to the day where his happy life had changed forever. Knowing what this was, he remembers what Urokodaki had said to him. The demon you killed was not the one who turned your sister and killed your family. That could only be done by one person, the king of demons himself, Muzan. Knowing what he must do, Tanjiro then dashed that way with Nezuko following. It was now or never. This is where he needed to go. As Muzan walked down the street, he felt a chilling sensation. It was unlike anything he had ever felt before. Well, anything he had felt in the last 1,000 years or so. Then turning around to see the boy with those earrings. No, it couldn't be. Even now, that man still haunts me. Tanjiro then noticed the baby within his arms. Not wanting to attack an innocent child, Tanjiro scoffed as Muzan stated he must have the wrong person or something like that. Though, when Muzan took another step, he tried to move, but his foot was trapped in ice. How pesky. I'll have to speak to Doma about this. He then breaks the ice and turns one of the civilians walking around into a demon that begins attacking the people as Tanjiro is forced to hold him back while not drawing his blade. Damn it, you coward. Don't run away now. Not now, when I have you right where I want you. Muzan continues down the street and gets a glimpse of the earrings once again. This is when the 2 other demons appear to help Tanjiro as he follows the boy, leading him to the hideout where the 2 would introduce themselves as Lady Tamayo and Yushiro. From here on, these demons explain their purpose, and Tanjiro respects it, explaining his own and his desires to save his sister. With their goals now being aligned, it's up to their own research in order to save the demons and turn them back into humans. But studying their blood is truly the key. With demons, with the high concentration of Muzan's blood, will further their research. Knowing that, Tanjiro leaned up, sensing that something was off. This is when Tanjiro took a step back, grabbing his blade and unsheathing it, as he ends up blocking attacks with a wall of ice, as the Tamari balls continue to bounce around the room. However, Tanjiro dashes out, running towards the arrow demon. As this goes on, the Tamari balls bounce around and begin heading towards him. He flips around one of them. However, he lands on an arrow that sends him back into the air, allowing him to be hit. Tanjiro then coughs due to the impact, and then spins around to block another punch. These two were incredibly fast. I might need to. Right before he finished his next thought, Nezuko appeared to his aid. Nezuko. Alright. Well, that makes this easier for me. You'll handle her, right? Nezuko would nod, looking at the girl in front of her. Alright then, let's do this. Tanjiro then rushes forward, and his blade creates an ice wall, and the arrows then head towards him, but he spins around the wall and continues rushing forward. He continues to counter, and as this goes on, Nezuko was having her own face-off against the demon girl using the Tamari balls. As it seems, she was overpowering her and winning against the demon. Tanjiro, though, was caught by one of the attacks by the arrows and then stabbed through his chest while being pinned against a tree. The demon then brags in front of him, but Tanjiro then smiles and breaks into ice. From behind him, the real Tanjiro had appeared. Frost breathing, sixth form, crystallized reflection. The after image that had created an ice almost replica of Tanjiro threw the demon off, as he was now paying the price for it. Tanjiro will be able to slice off the head of the demon, and then falls to one knee, feeling the exhaustion from the sixth form. Not only was it an after image, but it was almost a complete ice clone of himself. While on his knee, he turns to Nezuko to see her winning the battle, causing the demon to mention Muzan's name, and for the curse to take effect on her body. With the battle now over, Tanjiro and Lady Tamayo established their plan, and Tanjiro, along with his sister, head out of Tokyo. With Tanjiro traveling and getting closer to another area, his crow alerts him of another mission, while coming across another demon slayer. This one seemed cowardly and was trying to get a girl to marry him. Tanjiro watched this interaction and almost laughed, causing the demon slayer to turn back and yell at him. Tanjiro then begins laughing, introducing himself, and Zenitsu continues yelling as well. His crow would also give details of the mission, and the two travel together, reaching the house that smelled like blood and demons. Seeing two little kids on the outskirts of it, Tanjiro questioned what had happened, and they begin talking about their brother, who was taken in by a demon out of nowhere, and they haven't seen him since. However, they've heard strange noises coming from inside this building, and there was also some music being played within it. Tanjiro questioned the music, and the little boy exclaimed that it sounded like drums, but he wasn't too sure at all. Tanjiro then claimed to them that he would save them, so he gets ready to head inside, with Zenitsu calling him insane. But Tanjiro draws his blade, knowing that he couldn't waste any more time, as their brother needed to be saved. This is when another man flies out of the building, but was caught by Tanjiro. He leaves him there, and then heads inside where the drums could continue to be heard. Flipping him into a different room, Tanjiro was confused, and then he realized that it was a blood demon art, just like the Tamari balls or those arrows that he faced a while ago. While walking, he eventually comes across the missing child and tells him to stay near him, no matter what happens. Eventually, the two would hear footsteps from his side, and then he noted that the demon had drums covering its torso. So that's the demon that brought you into this place. The boy nodded, and Tanjiro then focused further. Alright then. Running out, he would swing his blade, but it was blocked, and then he was sent back by the demon. As soon as he would go to take a step, he was flipped onto the ceiling and hit his back. Slashes then headed toward his face, but Tanjiro flips out of the way and will grab the boy as well. While standing, the demon looks towards Tanjiro and attacks him, using his drums. Tanjiro then continued to face the demon. However, his attacks were stopped by the hand of the demon catching the blade over and over. This goes on for quite some time, until eventually the demon goes to tap the drum, only to realize ice was covering his palm, which would catch him off guard. So this whole time, that's what you were planning. Tanjiro was then seen running towards him. First form, Ice Slash. The demon was able to evade, but Tanjiro yells out that he's not finished just yet. Second form, Snowstorm Barrage. Multiple slashes head towards the demon and forces it back to block with each hand. However, from each slash, Tanjiro would counter, and he continues to speed up. Not only that, but when the blade makes contact, it leaves shards of ice on the demon's body. Out of nowhere, it becomes hard for the demon to even move. Tanjiro then flips away and stares at him. It all ends here. The demon notes that he no longer has the strength to continue fighting, let alone even move his frozen arms. Fourth form, Winter's Breath. Tanjiro blitzes the demon, and it sends a chilling flurry of ice that covers the demon's entire body. Tanjiro would sheathe his blade, causing the ice statue of the demon to shatter into crystals. May you rest easy now. The demon was now defeated, and Tanjiro was exhausted. Taking some damage from the constant attacks, he now needed to escort the boy out of the building. This is when he makes it outside to see Inosuke beating up Zenitsu, who was actually protecting his box. However, this is when Tanjiro places his sheathed blade onto the ground, which causes ice to cover Inosuke's feet, holding him still while they question him. Inosuke would still try to attack them, but he couldn't do anything, and they would eventually all come to an agreement, as later, the three were all seen resting at the elderly woman's house. Knowing that a new mission could be assigned at any moment, Tanjiro stepped outside to look at the moon. Remembering his encounter with Muzan, it angered him that he couldn't do anything. Why did he hold back in that moment, when he could have killed him? No, these were all foolish thoughts. If he was truly the king of demons like Urokodaki had said, then there was no way for him to kill him in that moment. Instead, he's just lucky to have survived. But one day, he promises to defeat Muzan. Tanjiro holds up his hand. Until we meet again, I'll become strong enough to slay you and free Nezuko. The next day would soon arrive as the trio begins their travels with Tanjiro's crow, telling them of a new mission that they would have. Multiple demons have been spotted on this mountain, and the current demon slayers that were there needed reinforcements due to the demons being high in rank. This shocked the three of them, as they wondered why Hashira hasn't been dispatched to that area. But the crow states that all the Hashira are currently busy, so these three were the closest to the area, so they need to head that way as soon as possible, as the battle was going on as they spoke. Soon, the three of them would reach the base of the mountain after traveling for some time. The trio would debate if they should wait or go in. However, Tanjiro was already heading inside without a second thought, and Inosuke was right behind him, not wanting to be left alone because he wanted to prove himself that he was stronger than Tanjiro. And Zenitsu, not wanting to be the last one outside of the forest, headed in as well. Inosuke and Tanjiro would make it to some area where some of the demon slayers were being held up by strings and webs. These were the same demon slayers that began attacking the duo, causing Tanjiro to sigh. Using the fifth form of Frozen Wasteland, he was able to stop them, and Inosuke jumps into a tree not to be caught by the ice covering the ground. Tanjiro would then look around, trying to figure out where it was coming from. But this is when we see how fast our protagonist truly is. Using this ice and his mastery of his forms, he performs the second form to cut down as many demon slayers as he could, basically freeing them from the control of the demons. But still they weren't useful at all because of their broken bones. Using this as his chance, Inosuke would be able to jump down, trying to track down the demon who was taking control of them, while Tanjiro would hold off the other demon slayers who weren't free, as those were the ones who continued attacking him and the other demon slayers who were on the ground injured. Dodging their blades, but then sensing something, as if someone was already watching him. Inosuke then jumps down, telling Gunpachiro to use him to kill the other demon controlling their allies. Tanjiro ignores the statement about his name, but then runs to Inosuke, being thrown into the air. Seeing the mother, or the spider mother, Tanjiro prepares to cut her down with his aerial attack. She prepares for the worst, but then suddenly, snowflakes would cut through her body, as she doesn't feel any pain at all. Only her head gracefully hits the ground as she looks to Tanjiro, thanking him for freeing her from this horrid family. Meanwhile, Zenitsu was fighting his own battle against one of the demons who was freaking him out as he continued to run away from it, not wanting to begin this battle at all, eventually knocking himself out, having to fall asleep to awaken his true self and take advantage of his surroundings. As we go back on to Tanjiro, who regrouped with Inosuke, as the two had found the demon sister preparing to attack her, only for the demonic father to appear. His large stature threw them off, and they flipped away. Tanjiro rushed back in, swinging his blade, but it was blocked by the demon. However, ice covered its arm. The demon then looked at it, and then slammed it against a tree, breaking the ice. And it caused Tanjiro to be confused, as this hasn't been seen before. The demon then grabbed a tree that had fell, and then sent Tanjiro flying. Inosuke claims that he can handle this himself, but Tanjiro states while midair that he'll be back soon. Using the ice, he breaks his fall, and Tanjiro now stood right in front of Rui. The two would end up going back and forth in a conversation about what true family is. For Tanjiro, it only angers him, and he tightly grips his blade. Rushing in, the strings retaliate, trying to stop him. Tanjiro flips over them and cuts through some others, getting close to Rui, but then being sent back into a tree. More strings would approach him, however Tanjiro narrowly avoids them. Rui calls Tanjiro a pest. While still attacking him, Tanjiro continues to avoid and block attacks to the best of his ability, but notices that he's being overwhelmed, obtaining scratches and cuts all over his body and face, noting that he's incredibly fast. So this is the power of a lower ranked demon. Rui's speed was on a whole nother level that Tanjiro hadn't faced before. Gaining the distance he needed, Tanjiro could only think of one thing to slow him down. Turning the battlefield into a snowy, icy ground, Tanjiro rushes in to attack. However, the strings still pose a threat to him, so he must avoid them, and right as he was about to get caught in an attack, Nezuko counters for him, which causes Rui to be angry due to the bond that these two shared, even when they were different races, with one being a demon and the other being a human. With their battle now continuing, Nezuko is eventually webbed up, and Tanjiro is forced to fight alone once again. With not much left in him, his sword being cut and broken in multiple places, Tanjiro begins to lose faith. This was until he sees his father standing right in front of him. His father told him to protect his sister. Do not yield in the face of an adversary until his very last breath. Control and concentrate on his breathing. That will give him victory. This vision of his father begins performing their family's flame dance, and Tanjiro's eyes widen. With everything on the line, he performs the Hinokami Kagura on instinct, dodging and weaving through the strings while creating flames. When more appeared behind him, they were set ablaze by the blood demon art of Nezuko. Not only that, but ice began covering parts of Tanjiro's body, while flames mirrored it on the other side. With so much on the line, he sliced off the head of Rui and instantly fell to the ground, barely awake. This time, Rui's body began to vanish, and he didn't need to be saved by Giyu. Tanjiro coughed up blood, stating that he couldn't even breathe right now. Focusing enough to pull himself up with his blade, it breaks on trying to support his weight after this tough-fought battle. Before he falls, Giyu catches him once again, looking at what was around him and the demon that was now fading, as that was the lower-ranked demon that they were told about. He then turned to Tanjiro. Well done. He would also see Nezuko running away from Shinobu until the crow's request that the trio return to the bases of the demon slayers. Tanjiro would look at Giyu before passing out with a smile. His body felt so hot and cold at the same time. It was a feeling that he never had before. And what was that he used? His father's dance created flames? But how could that be possible? All of this felt like a dream to Tanjiro while he was unconscious, but that was his reality that he would be waking up to as he was tied up, facing all the Hashira and the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, Kaguya Ubuyashiki. And Tanjiro would discuss. The same thing happens as in the original, meaning Nezuko denies the blood of Sanemi, convincing the Demon Slayers. However, this time Tanjiro began releasing ice from his body that made Obanai slam him to the ground even harder. After the whole ordeal was settled, the trio of Demon Slayers began recovering in the butterfly state. And with that time passing, Tanjiro actually began searching for the answers of his past, meaning he was trying to discover what this dance of fire truly was. He wishes he could ask Nezuko, but not even she could respond nor remember. However, hearing of a Hashira who manipulates flames caused Tanjiro to become curious. Tanjiro would then be given another blade during this time before heading to find Rengoku, the Flame Hashira. Meeting at the train, the three of them would hop on without their tickets and eventually find Rengoku in the train cart. Sitting down with him, Tanjiro learns nothing of this dance, but Rengoku states that he believes this is the first time in history that an Ice Demon Slayer has been present, so that itself was astonishing. Tanjiro was already making history, and if he was able to control flames as well, then he will become a Hashira himself. And hearing these words motivated the young Tanjiro, but his next words were stopped as a demon would appear on the train cart, and Rengoku quickly dispatches the demon. And then it's shown that each one of our heroes is asleep. Enmu stood on top of the train carts, smiling and stating that the true fun can truly begin. Tanjiro wakes up within his own dream, seeing his family alive once again. This couldn't be true. He then believes that his Demon Slayer life was all a dream. Staying with his family, Tanjiro smirked and actually began to enjoy himself, as did the others in their respective dreams. However, soon Tanjiro realizes that this was a dream alongside Rengoku. Then, each one of them was still asleep, and on the outside, Nezuko was the one trying to wake them up. She had to resort to extreme measures, using her blood demon art or pink flames to awaken her brother from his dream. Still, Tanjiro had to do his part and sliced off his own neck in order to fully wake up, only furthering his resolve to succeed. As Tanjiro begins trying to wake up his friends, he's attacked by the others on the train cart. Tanjiro would fight back without a second thought here, as he's able to knock them out and leave them in the cart. This is when he tells Nezuko to help the others wake up as he chases down the demon responsible. Enmu turns, not believing his eyes. "Well, you're awake early." Tanjiro doesn't even speak, only focusing on the battle ahead. Ice begins to surround his body and his blade as he looks on. Enmu feels this cold sensation within his own body. But just what was this comparable to? Ah yes, the fear that Tanjiro's ice creates was immense. Frost breathing, first form, ice slash. Tanjiro slides by Enmu, aiming for the neck, and he actually manages to slice it off. The demon's head bounces before being connected back to the train, making Tanjiro realize that this lower moon demon was even stronger and smarter than Ryu. Realizing that Enmu was connected to the train itself, Tanjiro needed to make a plan for those in the train cart as they could be injured. This is when Inosuke, who had just awakened, comes to assist Tanjiro by slicing through all the attacks that were incoming. The citizens within the cart are also protected by the group of Demon Slayers and Rengoku, who would come up with a plan. He plans to defend most of the carts by himself, and have Nezuko and Zenitsu defend the remaining three. As for the lower ranked demon, Tanjiro and Inosuke must hunt its head down. Tanjiro here wouldn't argue, as he only takes a deep breath, causing ice to slowly surround parts of his body that remain hidden. Tanjiro then runs outside and flips on top of the carts, and then focuses on what's around him. Inosuke reappears to his side, and the two would head towards the train cart in the front. Tanjiro internalizes what's going on around him, and then focuses on what's up ahead. The room is then completely frozen by Tanjiro's breathing technique. He slowly begins walking forward while examining the limbs that had attacked them. Slicing them off one by one, he realizes that there were bones underneath. Quickly, they were covered, and Tanjiro, well, his eyes would widen as he was almost falling asleep while fighting. With his hands going in, he grabbed his blade tighter and focused. Frost breathing, second form, snowstorm barrage. Swinging his blade in all directions to cover himself and Inosuke the two are able to make a path towards what seems like the head of this demon. Tanjiro is launched down that way by Inosuke, and flames then surround his blade. Hinokami Kagura, clear blue sky, landing the attack, which is able to cut right through and cause the train cars to then begin flying apart. Tanjiro jumps out, and while mid-air, flying back, he focuses on all the carts. Having some sort of sense for this, as if he's done it before. It's almost as if his body moves on its own, as he says to himself he'll only get his one chance here. Frost breathing, crystallized reflection, third fold, with 3 other ice reflections appearing of Tanjiro. They aided him to create walls of ice for the train carts that would crash into them and stop them from flipping around. This wouldn't be enough, but it did mitigate the damage. With this, each of the Demon Slayers was able to regroup, with Tanjiro and Inosuke, where Rengoku states that Tanjiro is impressive. An explosion then goes off, with Tanjiro raising his guard once again. Seeing what was around them, they noticed that the air had shifted. What was this? This is when they look in to see Upper Moon 3 revealing himself and rushing in to attack Tanjiro. Respectively, Rengoku performs the second form of flame breathing, while Tanjiro used the first form of frost breathing. A blazing heat slices Akaza's right arm, and a cold cut frost slices across his chest, leaving ice there. Flipping back, Akaza commends these two, with Rengoku stating that he will handle this himself. Tanjiro nods but states that he plans to back up the Hashira and try his best to not get in his way. This is when we see that Akaza gives out a deal to Rengoku of becoming a demon. He would of course decline, and the Upper Moon 3 gets into a fighting stance. Blood Demon Art, Destructive Death, Compass Needle. With the snowflake appearing on the ground and his body beginning to glow, he vanished from sight, as did Rengoku as they would clash. Blade and fist echoing throughout the battlefield, as these two seemed almost equal. While they interlocked, Tanjiro appeared on Akaza's right side. The demon pushes away, and the Hashira smirks and focuses on helping Tanjiro. He then punches right through the boy. However, Akaza realizes that his hand was then covered in ice, as the boy would then shatter. A decoy? The real Tanjiro was on his backside, and sliced right at his neck using the first form of frost breathing. This cut Akaza, but not deep at all, allowing the demon to jump away, and realize that he couldn't heal the cut due to ice seeping into his neck and blocking his cells from healing themselves. What a pest. I need to kill that annoying brat. Akaza wouldn't have any breathing room at all, as Rengoku would appear again, right there, continuing their battle. These two battled more intensely than ever. This was more intense than anything Tanjiro had ever seen thus far. Tanjiro then rushes back in to help the Flame Hashira and blocks an attack for him, allowing him to land slices on Akaza. Annoying the demon, who sends Tanjiro flying and rushes in after him. I'll kill him now. Rengoku would appear again, blocking the path and taking the demon off course. Your true battle is with me. These two would keep clashing over and over, with Akaza smiling while having fun during this battle. The demon explains to the Hashira that their battle will go down in history, but if he wants to truly grow stronger, then he needs to become a demon. With the Flame Hashira ignoring this, going into their battle further, it would ramp up, getting so intense that Tanjiro knew he couldn't even intervene due to the fact that these two began moving so fast. Watching on from a distance, he wished he could help, but he also began seeing things, learning more and more while watching this battle, beginning to reach its climax, with Rengoku and Akaza both pulling out their final techniques. However, this time, as Akaza goes to move, he can't, as his feet are stuck. He would then look down and scoffs in anger, seeing the ice, and he tracks it from a distance as we see Tanjiro, with him kneeling down and his blade stabbed into the ground after performing the frozen wasteland technique. Damn you, brat, he begins to yell, as he then turns to see the Flame Hashira getting even closer to him, yelling for the Demon Slayers to bring their all if they truly want to end him here and now. These two are engulfed in flames, and the others are forced to watch on. As the dust soon begins to settle, we see the two of them locked together, with Rengoku's blade halfway through Akaza's body, while on the other hand, the demon, his fist, was just inches away from piercing the chest of the Hashira. If he was able to use his feet, he may have reached him. But then, the sun slowly began to rise as Akaza tried to make his escape. This is when Tanjiro would appear again. Due to him not being injured, he was able to assist him just a little bit more. Frost breathing, second form, snowstorm barrage. While Akaza was being held in place by the blade of Rengoku, his feet were cut off by Tanjiro as he then fell to the ground. Feeling the scorching heat of the sun rise hit his back, he knew what he needed to do. But there was nothing he could. He couldn't escape the deadly sunlight, so he began to regenerate his feet and he launched himself forward with his arms. However, both Rengoku and Tanjiro chased him down and began slowing him down. With Akaza making it to the trees where the shade was, he thought he was safe, until a blazing heat from Rengoku's flame breathing sent him flying into another open area. Akaza was now panicking, believing that this could be the end right here and now. Damn you. Damn it all. I won't lose to you pathetic and worthless humans now. Why don't you all just die already? Using his blood demon art one final time to defend himself. With Tanjiro appearing performing the Hinokami Kagura dance to create his own flames that burn parts of Akaza he can't regenerate. Still, the demon is able to counter as his fist slowly approaches the face of the young Tanjiro. Rengoku blocks the attack and pushes Akaza back, but it comes at the cost of his own hand as it breaks. He still holds onto his blade, claiming that humans are incredible, and so is their potential as it's limitless. And the limited time that they have here is what makes them so precious. A demon like him could never understand that. The sun fully begins to rise, and Akaza is slowly turned to ash as he begins to remember his past, slowly dipping into it. Seeing his own loved ones as they would welcome him into the afterlife. As he then begins to remember how he was treated at one time, and why he fights the way he does. Slowly fading away, Upper Moon 3 was defeated by the Demon Slayers alongside the sun. Tanjiro and Rengoku would fall to their knees, exhausted, with the crows exclaiming their victory to all the other Demon Slayers and Hashira. Rengoku, alongside Tanjiro and company, had defeated Upper Moon 3 and a Lower Moon demon within 24 hours. This is the new age of Hashira, and it seems that this group of Demon Slayers will be able to finish a battle that was started so long ago. With the battle now being over, backup would arrive, as the Demon Slayers later return to their base to begin healing. As well at the Butterfly Estate, our trio is able to begin the recovery process once again. And with Upper Moon 3 being defeated this early, Muzan calls a meeting for all his other Upper Moon demons, telling them to not hold back against the Demon Slayer corpse and to kill that boy with the earrings if they ever do cross him. Still, some time does pass with Tanjiro slowly recovering, but then also training to get more comfortable with sun breathing. Rengoku still being alive here is such a big thing, but he still has to take time to heal. But he does take Tanjiro to his own estate where his father was. They would meet and ask Rengoku's father about sun breathing. At first he wants to say nothing, especially because he still has a slight anger towards his eldest. But Rengoku commands an answer for Tanjiro, believing that he will be the next Hashira to lead the charge against Muzan. Seeing the earrings, his father becomes enraged, believing Tanjiro also came here to mock his family. Instead, Tanjiro bows his head, pleading to him. These earrings and Dance of the Flames were left by my father to me, and it is all I have left of him, besides memories. Please help me honor my father and my family, like Kyojiro does for you. Hearing these words struck a change in the father's heart, as he told the two to follow him, leading them to a room where we would give him a book that was stated to have different notes on such breathing techniques. He gives it to Tanjiro, claiming that this was what was left of it from his own rage, and do with it what he wants. Opening the book to see the pages about sun breathing, ripped to shreds, in pieces. Tanjiro would thank Rengoku and his younger brother for their assistance, but he states he needs to continue his training once again. Walking back to the butterfly state, Tanjiro wonders when his blade would come back, as he had to send it somewhere due to it being so bent out of shape from his last battle. And as he continues to walk, the blacksmith would appear, the man with the mask, as he would stop Tanjiro, presenting his new and improved blade to him, stating that the durability has been increased so much so that Tanjiro should be able to fight with no problems at all. He's actually a little proud of himself. And Tanjiro, well, since he was able to help defeat an upper moon demon, his blacksmith has a little bit more pride in his work, as he wishes Tanjiro luck on his next mission and begins to head back home. Tanjiro is able to regroup with the others, continuing their training, becoming stronger and more durable for the battles to come ahead. This is also when Tengen Uzui appears, taking Aoi and Naoya for his mission. The person to stop him here, though, is actually his true friend. Rengoku's hand was on his shoulder. It was still bruised and broken, but he was slowly recovering as well. The two would talk, as Rengoku suggested that Tanjiro and his friends go with him instead on their mission. As for him, he plans to back him up after taking care of his hand first and completing his training that he has with his father to master a new technique. Tengen Uzui then looks forward at Tanjiro and waits for him to come on, letting the girls go and explaining their mission. They begin traveling to the booming city and would arrive quickly with Tanjiro focusing on their main goal: defeat the demon hiding in plain sight. Here, Tanjiro actually remembers how Muzan was hiding and disguised himself as he began hiding in the estates. With that, he sneaks around at nighttime, just like Inosuke and Zenitsu do. They end up searching around for days before finding any leads, but the main woman in charge has the scent of a demon. Tanjiro isn't 100% sure, but he later runs into an elderly woman who explains that the head mistress has been here for a very long time, even when she was a younger girl, but somehow she hasn't aged a single day. With this new information, Tanjiro plans to make his move this night and begin a battle. If she is an upper moon demon, Tanjiro needs to be careful in order to swiftly defeat her. We would then go into a room to see Daki holding up a woman who was held hostage when ice slowly begins seeping through the cracks of the room, of the doors and the windows. Feeling this chilling sensation, Daki twists and turns, asking who was there. Ice is then converted into the small room as a voice was heard. "I won't allow this to go on any longer." Frost breathing. First form. Ice slash. Tanjiro cuts the woman free and then places her near the door. Tell the others to evacuate for their safety. Daki would try to take the opportunity to attack him. "Didn't your master ever tell you not to turn your back on your opponent?" Daki tries to rip through him using her attacks, but ice shatters in the boy's place. The true Tanjiro stands behind her, as proud as ever. "And don't assume that I would ever turn my back on one of the upper moon demons. Now, let's begin." Tanjiro then blitzes her, sending her flying outside of the building as she crashes down into the streets below, and he doesn't let up from here. Her ribbons do their best to try and defend her, but Tanjiro was quick. Frost breathing. Second form. Snowstorm barrage. Cutting through while also blocking the demon's attacks, Daki was completely thrown off. Not only was this brat's speed incredible, but his movements are becoming sharper by the minute. Don't tell me that he's learning while we fight. Or is it? Daki then blocks an attack, countering Tanjiro and forcing him to jump away. "Hey kid, let me ask you something." Tanjiro remains silent while Daki speaks. "Were you a part of that group that helped defeat Upper Moon 3? Tanjiro then grips his blade tighter, responding, "Yeah, I was. So what?" Daki then prepares herself for the battle ahead of her, and Tanjiro begins to rush right back in, sprinting with all his force, blocking the ribbons while getting closer and closer. Hinokami Kagura. Clear blue sky. With this circle of flames cutting through her torso, she screams in agony while trying to heal it. It's almost if this breathing technique left some type of scar where she was trying to heal. Still, this boy's stance and his presence, why was it all so familiar? She's seen it before, but where? Could it possibly be one of the Hashira that she had defeated long ago? No. This all had to be something else. The battle between these two continues on, with them seemingly equal for now. This Tanjiro was much stronger than the one we would see in the original. Thanks to frost breathing, he's able to maneuver around the ribbons much easier. However, a civilian does get caught in the way, forcing Tanjiro to then protect them. He takes some damage here, but is able to slightly recover. Bleeding from his side, he looks at the demon still facing him. Taking a deep breath and zoning in, Tanjiro then performs Frost Breathing's fourth form, Winter's Breath, blitzing the demon with speed and blocking each ribbon attack. Each time the ribbon makes contact with Tanjiro's blade, ice freezes it in place, leading Daki to having her arm completely cut off, and that side of her body having ice that begins to spread. Tanjiro focuses on switching to sun breathing as now flames come from his blade, and he swings it to her, getting closer and closer. And right as he was about to finish the job, he falls to the ground while coughing up blood. His body was at its natural limits and couldn't go any further. And he was struggling to even breathe. He doesn't have enough stamina of a Hashira to even keep up with the movements that he was doing. And looking down, she prepares to finish him off, but Nezuko would appear, saving him. He would thank his sister, as she would look down at him to see his injuries and was infuriated by the demon. Daki and Nezuko then go on to have the same battle as in the original, and while this went on, Tengen and the others successfully would save his wives and were beginning to head to support Tanjiro. With the battle between the two demon girls ramping up, Tanjiro was focused on stopping his sister as she was getting out of control. However, this time he uses frost breathing to subdue her arms and her legs to pin her down, as eventually she goes back to sleep, with Tengen arriving to cut off the head of Daki. And as Tanjiro places Nezuko back into the box, he watches on, as Daki begins yelling and screaming at the two of them, and then starts crying. She cries that it isn't fair, as Tengen was a Hashira and he caught her off guard. But this was confusing them. If her head was cut off, why is she not faded away yet? They begin to process what's going on, realizing that she might not be the demon that they were looking for. And as soon as they came to this realization, another demon appears. Tanjiro and Tengen would instantly move in. Gyutaro dodges their attacks and moves his sister out of the way while touching her face. Don't worry, it'll be fine now. I'll make sure these two pay for harming your beauty. He turns to them, saying that the two of them are impressive, but this is where you'll die. Seeing the demon make his move, Tengen pushes Tanjiro and Nezuko out of the way into the street and blocks the attack. Tanjiro will then regroup with the wives, Inosuke and Zenitsu, and he explains how the demons must be connected in some way, shape, or form, or the sister may not truly be the real Upper Moon 6, as it must be the brother. And if that's the case, he needs to be their main focus. Tengen was handling him right now, so they need to just buy him a little bit more time, and take away the sister so that he can focus fully. The three demon slayers make their plan and begin to execute it. Jumping onto the roof, they would then focus, staring down Daki and begin to launch their attacks. This time, she seemed to be fully healed and had her ribbons at the ready. Blocking their attacks while continuing the battle, Tanjiro would jump forward. Zenitsu was by his side, but Daki's speed had somehow increased. She appeared behind them, and if not for Tengen's wives, this could have been fatal. But just how could she become so fast in just a few mere moments? We'd go over to the battle between Tengen and Gyutaro, as the demon begins to explain something pretty extraordinary about the upper moons. Appearing behind Tengen and slashing his back, not even the Hashira could have predicted this level of speed. If our Lord gives us more of his blood, and we overcome its struggles, we become even stronger. And then that's when we'd actually see the true eyes of these siblings simultaneously, with Gyutaro and Daki being Upper Moon 5. Tengen smiles, flipping away and then raising his guard. This won't be an easy battle, but he'll lay everything on the line just to succeed. He wishes the other Demon Slayers luck against Daki, but they should be fine. And going back to their battle on the other side of the building, Inosuke and Zenitsu twisted and turned to dodge her attacks. Meanwhile, Tanjiro was trying to get in close, but was also strategizing. If cutting off her head alone didn't work, then there had to be something to it. Maybe if both of these demons were the same Upper Moons. If they were both Upper Moon 5, could it be possible that they need to cut off? This is when Tanjiro would let them know as he comes to a realization. As he explains it, Zenitsu and Inosuke, well, he tells them to get ready because he plans to do it soon. He begins running to help Tengen, telling them to just manage to cut off her head as he plans to help Tengen do the same. If they can somehow do this around the same time, or at least keep Daki's head severed long enough for them to take off Gyutaro's, then they could overcome these demons as well and win the battle here. But it would be difficult. He would wish his friends luck as he goes to help the Hashira. Rushing in, Gyutaro's blood demon art was fierce, forcing Tanjiro and Tengen to work together well, and it still seemed like this wasn't enough. With Tengen here losing his right hand in front of our protagonist, all hope started to look lost as Zenitsu and Inosuke began to push Daki back, actually cutting off her head, running away with it. Inosuke plans to give our heroes more time, but he gets stabbed by Gyutaro. This is when all of our heroes seem to be down for the count. Tanjiro was the only one who could just barely move. Gyutaro then begins to walk towards him, saying he had no chance of winning by himself. You really are pathetic, you know that? Tanjiro still managed to stand, and he takes a deep breath. He notices the flames around the area and closes his eyes. Why should they have to lose here when everyone is counting on them to win? No, I won't. I won't accept it at all. Frost breathing, frozen wasteland. Ice covers the surrounding area and dissipates the flames, with Tanjiro then rushing into Gyutaro. The demon blocks the attacks with his own weapons. However, Tanjiro begins to speed up, with Gyutaro's movements almost slowed down to him. He can't figure out why this was, but Tanjiro's chance was here as he begins to push through. Swinging his blade high and striking down, Gyutaro pushes it off. Tanjiro now swings his blade again, but now Gyutaro swings to kill the boy, countering it. With Tanjiro not knowing what he could do, he knows that he can't block the attack. Then, the attack is blocked by Tengen himself. However, this Gyutaro is much faster, and he turns his whole body, kicking Tengen away and now aiming for the vital points of both of the Slayers at one time. Tengen is just barely able to counter with his blade, blocking the attack, but he can't make it to help Tanjiro. Watching on through his one eye, he continues to focus, seeing what was right in front of him. The blade slowly got closer and closer to Tanjiro's throat. But in this moment, flames engulfed the area and protected him. Kyojuro Rengoku arrives, sporting a new outfit, as it was white, gold, and red. Not only that, his eyes were fierce as he claimed that this is where they would make another breakthrough, defeating another Upper Moon and claiming victory for the Demon Slayer Corps once again. An all-out battle with these three begins to go on, with Tanjiro as the support. Meanwhile, Zenitsu and Inosuke take on Daki. This time, Nezuko would wake up in order to help them as well with their own blood demon art. These intense fights are soon wrapped up with the head of Daki being sliced off by the two Slayers, and meanwhile Tanjiro is able to sneak up on Gyutaro to behead him using the Hinokami Kagura. With Rengoku here, the tide of battle completely changed. However, the body of Gyutaro wanted revenge, not letting the Slayers get off so easy. Later exploding, destroying the entire area, Tanjiro wakes up, with Nezuko and his friends removing the rubble from on top of him. Surprised that he was able to behead the demon, his sister then carries him over to Rengoku and Tengen, showing off that her flames could also heal. With so much going on, Tanjiro slowly began to celebrate, as Obanai later arrives, saying that Rengoku did good by going ahead first, but then looks at Tengen. You should be able to recover after this. Tengen claims that this was it for him though. He'll remain in the Demon Slayer corpse, but not as a Hashira. He's stepping down from that position. Obanai was angered, since here he had only lost one hand, but had both eyes, even though one of his eyes just would have a scar on it. But Tengen then points to Tanjiro. That boy, that young Slayer right there, will become the next Hashira and continue to lead us to victory. I'm sure of it. Swordsmith battle finally being settled, the Demon Slayers and Hashira took a look to a hopeful future. With constant victories on a large scale, it seemed that everything was now in their favor. Still though, there was a constant threat of Muzan lurking within the background. And if these two demons could become this strong in just such a short amount of time, there was no telling how strong many others were, as they would even rival some of the Hashira. Returning to the Butterfly Estate, Tanjiro and company began recovering and training once again. However, his blade was damaged too badly and must be fixed or reforged. Knowing that, he's actually told to go within the Swordsmith village to get his blade fixed. However, before he departs, he then goes to Giyu to talk to him, as we would see this. Giyu tells the young Demon Slayer that Uzui Tengen has retired as the Sound Hashira, as it was shocking news to Tanjiro. However, he doesn't ask any questions. Giyu would let Tanjiro know that if he's able to keep up what he's doing, soon he may even become a Hashira himself, and he plans to help him reach that level. He will train him for these days remaining until his departure. Then, we would skip by these days to see Tanjiro arriving into the Swordsmith village, taking off his blindfold and his nose plug, enjoying the scenery before walking off on his own. Tanjiro thinks about his own training with Giyu and how his frost breathing has reached even new heights that he couldn't have never imagined. In just a couple days, he'd become so much more of a threat. Tanjiro then begins walking around and meets the chief of the village, with the chief explaining that the man who Tanjiro's blade, well, the one who makes it, is in deep work right now. Hotaru believes that his craftsmanship is lacking due to Tanjiro's blades always being broken, chipped, or even shattered. Tanjiro would blame himself. However, the chief points out that the blades of the Hashira have never done so, and as the next Hashira in line, Tanjiro deserves a blade that can support him on his endeavors. Hearing that, Tanjiro fully understands the gravity of the situation that they were in, and with that, Tanjiro decides to continue exploring while he was here, eventually running into Mitsuri, the love Hashira, who explains that there was a secret weapon that was hidden here, and it will be useful to him. It will elevate Tanjiro to the level of Hashira, boosting his morale even further. The next morning, Tanjiro heads out. He almost feels destined to become a Hashira due to the rest of, everyone here helping him out so much and leading the way. Maybe Tengen was truly right about him, and a new era beginning through him. He later runs into Tokito and a small child, as the two would go back and forth. Then Tanjiro butts in, with these two going back and forth as well. With Tanjiro fully protecting the young boy, Tokito gets so annoyed to the point where he just leaves them there. He decides he'll just train on his own and become even stronger. This is when he instantly turns around, knocking out Tanjiro. And he goes to fight the doll once again. Tanjiro will wake up as the boy was actually trying to fix the doll, as he is able to see it. Yorichi Type 0. Kotetsu and Tanjiro would look at the doll, seeing that it was broken, but they continue to try to fix it, with the doll eventually standing up. Incredible. Just how can it move once again? Kotetsu then promises to make Tanjiro stronger so they could stand up to Tokito. Kotetsu would then look at the doll as it gets ready to engage Tanjiro. Tanjiro stood before the formidable doll, feeling the weight of his heritage that was passed down onto him. He had inherited the breath of the sun from his ancestors, a skill rarely possessed by any other demon slayer except for one in history. He was so determined to then master frost breathing as well, an unknown technique that he had developed through his rigorous training and the endeavors he had faced. The fusion of these two powerful techniques will be the key to overcoming his next challenges. As the training commenced, Tanjiro focused on his breathing, channeling the power of the sun while simultaneously harnessing the chill of the frost. The doll sprang to life, its 6 arms moving with an uncanny speed and precision. Tanjiro's heart raced at the thought of even getting hit, but these flurry of strikes he would have to dodge, as he had to hone his instincts. But even this wouldn't be enough. Remember, Tanjiro, you have the strength of everyone backing you up. Kotetsu's voice had rang out, echoing throughout the area that they were in. The young boy, a skilled swordsman, with a heart full of encouragement, watched intensely as Tanjiro would engage the doll. He had been tasked with repairing it whenever it broke, and his enthusiasm fueled Tanjiro's determination. With each swing of the doll's blades, Tanjiro felt the pressure mount. He was pushed to his very limits, not knowing what would come next. With every movement, a dance would happen between life and death. He employed his frost-breathing techniques, creating barriers of ice that slowed down the doll's movements. However, it was fast enough to even move around these barricades, and it would swing right at Tanjiro once again, hitting him, sending him flying. Tanjiro would get back up. With so much encouragement from Kotetsu, he would then clench his fists, looking ahead, reminding him of so much that he had depending on him. Days began to pass. As the training progressed, Tanjiro began to learn the doll's movements and its patterns. Each strike had a certain rhythm to it that he could anticipate, drawing on both frost breathing and the breath of the sun. He then found a perfect balance, launching a series of counterattacks that caught the doll off guard, and with each successful strike, he felt a surge of confidence. But the doll was relentless. It responded with an increased aggression, forcing Tanjiro to dig deeper within his reserves. And in his moment of exhaustion, he stumbled back, but Kotetsu's voice rang throughout his mind. You're not just fighting for yourself, Tanjiro. You're fighting for everyone who can't fight. Remember that. Tanjiro then surged forward, channeling sun breathing. In a final flurry of moments, he unleashed a powerful attack that shatters the doll's defenses, sending it crashing to the ground. Panting heavily, Tanjiro would stand victorious. A mix of exhaustion and exhilaration washed over him. He would turn to Kotetsu, who beamed with pride. You did it, Tanjiro. That was amazing. Tanjiro smiled, grateful for the encouragement that had fueled his spirit. Thanks, Kotetsu, but I couldn't have done it without you. As they surveyed the broken doll, Tanjiro would look down. There was something off. As they looked inside, they watched a blade shine within the sunlight. Just what could this be? Tanjiro would then remember the words of Mitsuri about the weapon that would be here for him. Could this be what she was hinting at? But how could she even know? Kotetsu would retrieve the blade and give it to Tanjiro, saying that he deserved it more than anyone else. He is truly a kind soul and has the strength to ascend to a Hashira. But before they could leave with the blade, Hotaru arrives, taking the blade, but is stopped by the elder. Still, it ends up with him taking the blade and heading off to reform it and create something even better for Tanjiro. This was truly his chance to redeem himself, so he would take it with pride. Moving on, Tanjiro, later that day, will be thinking to himself, what life would be like when all of this was over. That night, as Tanjiro slowly begins to fall asleep, he later snaps out of his sleep. Something was off. He didn't know what it was, but he couldn't just lay down. As in this moment, Tokito had appeared in the room. So you sensed me. That's impressive, even for you. These two begin their short exchange until a demon slips into a room and they both attack it without hesitation. Tokito uses mist breathing, but the demon evades it, landing on the ceiling, only to be caught and iced by Tanjiro. This is when Nezuko rips the demon into 2 pieces. Instantly, it regenerates into 2 brand new demons, with one of them sending Tokizo flying. Tanjiro couldn't focus on that and catches the other demon off guard using his frost breathing to slice his arm clean off, but he's kicked away by the other one. While flying midair, he sees Genya in a battle with his own shotgun, catching the demons off guard. This is when the real battle would truly begin. With this battle continuing, the demons eventually split into their 4 personas of emotions, and with them being outnumbered, Tanjiro tells Nezuko to help Genya, as he plans to take down these 2 in front of him with ease. They would claim that he's crazy. To defeat both of them here would be insane. Tanjiro nods, not even saying much at all, as he plans not to drag this fight out. So why even hold back at this point? They would attack, but he vanishes, appearing behind them. He's fast. Are we sure he's only a mere human? Wait, just where is he? Both demons will feel something cold around their bodies, a chilling sensation that hit every one of their cells. Frost breathing, hidden technique, eternal winter. Snow begins to fall in the area as both demons are completely frozen, alongside everything around them. They manage to break free before they were shattered and rush Tanjiro. As they slash at the young slayer, ice freezes around him to create a shield. Suddenly, blades of ice appear around our hero as he begins to slice around these demons. However, this is when Hotaru would appear once again, throwing the reforged blade to our hero, who uses it, cutting through them with multiple angles. Tanjiro slowly walked away and then crushed his hand, allowing the ice to capture them and shatter the remaining pieces. Just what was this new form of frost breathing, and when did he gain such a power? Genya, seeing this as well, wishing he could use a technique like that. Tanjiro then slides into their battle as well, completely destroying the demons in front of them, as they would notice that their bodies still haven't faded away, and that's due to Hantegu's real body still running. However, once it was sensed by Tanjiro, he rushes in. This is the end for you. Right as he goes to slice it in half, he falls to the ground holding his chest, remembering his training with Giyu. Tanjiro, you will only have 30 seconds with this technique, so use it wisely. Tanjiro begins coughing up blood. His body, it felt heavier than anything he's ever felt in his life. Luckily for him, Tokito was here as well, finishing up his own battle earlier because of the Demon Slayer mark, and he finishes off the battle once and for all. However, their group was in an open area while the sun began to rise, with Nezuko being in danger. Tanjiro slowly turns, his body so in pain he couldn't even move. Was this the end for Nezuko? All he could do was put his hand out and continue to cough up blood, because if he tried to move another inch, he was sure he would pass out. Only thing he can do now was scream in agony, believing his sister to be dead. But this was the moment where Nezuko conquers the sun, walking over to her brother with the bamboo falling off of her face, using her blood demon art to heal his internal injuries. She speaks, saying she's glad that he's alright, and Tanjiro was shocked more than anyone else, with this now being an event that would mark history, as the Hashira have an even greater advantage and have been on a winning streak. Returning later to the Butterfly Estate and base headquarters of the Demon Slayers, Tanjiro was set to meet with Ubuyashiki and his children. Since he was so ill, his words were that of the few, so he had his children explain that since becoming a Demon Slayer, Tanjiro has had to reset the course of history. To now, they have a fighting chance against Muzan himself and the remaining upper moons. This is when Ubuyashiki turns his head to Tanjiro. Kamado Tanjiro, from this point on, you will no longer be a part of the regular members of the Demon Slayer Corps. You will now be honored with the title of Hashira, now being known as Tanjiro, the frost-breathing Hashira. Tanjiro now being promoted to the rank of Hashira for his assistance in defeating multiple lower-ranked and upper-ranked demons. This was a shock for our hero, as he could only bow his head in acknowledgement. Memories of his family begin to flood his mind and also his life. Every moment, every battle, each action, each time he's picked up this blade and swung it to defend others who could not defend themselves, has led him now to becoming a Hashira, the highest rank among the Demon Slayer Corps. He was honored and grateful. However, Ubuyashiki has to let him know that this was only the beginning of the end. To truly help cement himself into the history of their organization, he must help lead the Demon Slayers in order to defeat Muzan, because he believes this will be a turning point when Tanjiro had arrived here. This will restore order into the world. Tanjiro then lifts his head with more determination in his eyes than ever. He stands now, heading out, and eventually getting sent his robes and his new rank being announced to the rest of the court. However, no one could even find Tanjiro after this, as also this is when the Hashira training began, and the Demon Slayers who were there went through hell. This was no easy task, to pass through each trial given by the respective Hashira. Some of the Slayers made it up more up the mountain than others, and then found that it was snowing. Freezing cold air began choking them and made it hard for them to even move. Under the newly appointed Hashira, Tanjiro, who mastered the art of frost breathing, he then trained the lower ranked Demon Slayers as they began taking on this grueling intensity of training, set up in the backdrop of a desolate, snowy mountain. This training not only challenges the physical limits of the trainees, but also tests their mental fortitude in harsh and an unforgiving environment. As the trainees arrive, they are greeted by the biting winds and thick blankets of snow that seem to swallow the sound of their own footsteps. Tanjiro, with his unwavering spirit, leads them into the frigid wilderness, emphasizing the importance of adapting to one's surroundings. The air was thin, making every single breath a struggle, and the cold air gnaws at their resolve. Tanjiro continues to explain that strength lies not in just the physical prowess of a Demon Slayer, but the ability to endure adversity, explaining that for many centuries the Demon Slayers have endured the harsh cruelty of this world because of Muzan. Now it is time for them to turn the tide, but the only way to do that is to come together as one and help each other sharpen each other, as iron will always sharpen iron. The training regimen is rigorous. Each day begins before dawn, with the trainees performing warm-ups that involve physical exercises, pushing their bodies to the brink of destruction. They run through the snow, their legs sinking into the powder, while Tanjiro encouraged them to harness their breathing techniques. Leading by example, he creates ice constructs that serve as both weapons and shields, forcing them to only seek mastery. As the days pass, the trainees continue facing various challenges designed to test their durability. They engage in combat drills where they must defend against Tanjiro's icy onslaught. Each strike from him was frost infused by his techniques and sends chills through their bones. He continues to teach them to adapt and counterattack despite the overwhelming coldness around them. They learn to embrace it, using it to their advantage, as if they could hide and mask themselves within the snow. Then they could maybe catch certain demons by surprise by using the same technique. The harsh conditions also force them to rely on one another, fostering camaraderie and resilience. Through this grueling training, the lower-ranked Demon Slayers emerge not only stronger, but more united as one. Their spirits harden like the ice that had surrounded them. Under Tanjiro's guidance, they learn that the true strength is forged in the coldest battles, preparing them for the challenges that lie ahead in their fight against the final demons. Tanjiro from this point would await more Demon Slayers, but instead, Sanemi, the Wind Hashira, arrives to the area. Not believing that Tanjiro was already fit for the position, upgrading his rank so fast to become a Hashira this early? No, he couldn't believe it. Especially with such a big battle coming up, he wouldn't just sit here and take anything. So Sanemi challenges him to a combat. Tanjiro looks at him, telling him that this isn't fair as of now. Sanemi begs to differ, however Tanjiro appears behind him, touching his shoulder, stating that this is his domain. Any movement within the frost and snow would be slowly orchestrated by him, so tread carefully if you truly wish to do this. Sanemi doubles down, using wind breathing to try and cut him, but unleashing several slashes around his body. He tries to cut through Tanjiro, but this was just an ice clone. The real Tanjiro sat above him in a tree, holding his blade, looking down at Sanemi, as Sanemi calls him cowardly and to show himself. But then suddenly, the snow begins to melt as the fog clears up and steam appears in its place. The immense heat was coming from Tanjiro himself, who now had flames surrounding his blade. If you truly wish to test me of your own accord, have at it. Winds and flames flow throughout the area in a poetic fashion, as on one side you had the vengeful and raging winds of Sanemi, while on the other you had the calm yet fierce flames of Tanjiro. These two powerhouses continue to go at it. However, Tanjiro ignored all the words of Sanemi, only focusing on what was right in front of him. Eventually, their battle does conclude, but only because it was stopped by Guillaume, telling them to work together for the true sake of their mission. Each of them then walks off, as later this night is when this story all truly begins. Muzan visits the base of the Demon Slayers and talks to Ubuyashiki, who has led him right into a trap. The explosion goes off, and the Hashira wastes no time in making it to the area. Guillaume swings his axe towards the demon, and Muzan isn't able to evade it, because looking down, his legs were frozen by ice. Could this be that damn brat? He twists and turns to see Rengoku, Mitsuri, Obanai, Giyu, and Sanemi closing in on him. Still no sign of that sun-breathing brat, but just where was he? Muzan, annoyed, brings them all into his own domain, where the Infinity Castle arc begins. As there is no Akaza, and with more Hashira here present, they all link up in groups. Well, they will, once they defeat all the lower ranked demons that Muzan had to prepare for them as well. Because due to them defeating so many upper ranked demons, he's been busy, gathering his own forces. So Rengoku, Giyu, and a few other Slayers are sent right to the rooms where they're confronted by new lower ranked demons. But their main focus was the last two upper ranked demons that stood in their way, Doma and Kokoshibo. Going into the room, with upper rank 2, we'd see Shinobu battling him, as the outcome would be the same. And as this does happen, Kanao arrives. Seeing this and being shocked, she begins to fall to her knees, only to have someone place a hand on her head, causing some of the ice within the room to melt as well. No need to worry. I know your elder sister all too well, and even now I believe she's fighting for your sake, so make sure to do the same for her. Kanao looks up, seeing Rengoku with the flames starting to burst around him. So this is Upper Moon 2. What a chilling atmosphere you have created. The exact opposite of Upper Moon 3. Doma then realizes it was this Hashira that had led to the defeat of Akaza, making him even more excited to prove how much stronger he truly was than Akaza by winning this battle with his overwhelming strength. In a different room, Muichiro notices that he's entering by himself, finding Upper Moon 1. Kokoshibo turns, and they have the same exchange as they do in the original, where Muichiro finds out he's a descendant of him. The demon would attack him, and he could barely dodge the attacks. He performs the 8-layer mist technique, only to have it parried in every which way, and being sent flying into a pillar, recovering quickly as he has to dodge the next slash and prepares himself for the next attack. Kokoshibo reveals his blade and now looks ahead, trying to convince his descendant to become a demon to reach his full potential as he did. The young Hashira declines. It's about time you found me. Kokoshibo feels something that's completely off. The air. It has shifted somehow. It's now somewhat cold, as if Doma was in his presence. But that couldn't be right at all. You know, it's pretty hard to find you, especially when you left off such a light signal. I mean, I could barely hear the noise of this battle. You must just be getting started yourself. Muichiro scoffs, but then smiles at the fact that Tanjiro walks from the shadows, now standing right next to him. So how's our situation? It seems the battle was just beginning. But it seems that he's Upper Moon 1, so he has to be one of the strongest that has ever lived, besides Muzan himself. Yeah, he is. Muchiro states that his attacks are fast. He can barely see them, so he's basing his dodging off of instinct almost. But that won't be enough to win them here. They'll have to push themselves beyond belief. Anything that they ever thought, or their level of strength in their mind as of now, they have to surpass it tenfold if they want to even compare to this demon. Tanjiro sighs. Let's just buy ourselves a little more time then. Unleashing his blade to now look ahead at the demon, where Kokoshibo's whole demeanor changes, seeing the earrings of his younger brother. You there, where did you acquire those earrings? Tanjiro then tenses up, not wanting to answer. The demon then attacks Tanjiro, who evades and performs the second form of frost breathing, Snowstorm Barrage. Sending a flurry of icy attacks, all of them were blocked as if they were nothing. An ice breathing technique that he's never even seen or heard before. These two boys are special. Each one of them must be Hashira as well. So young, with so much potential. Just like. The demon then looks ahead of the boys, and for a moment, sees himself and his own brother. Damn it. Damn it all. What a dreadful memory that I must erase. He then stood frozen for a moment. Tanjiro could sense Genya. If he had made it, that means the other Hashira would be closing in soon. Genya shoots his shotgun only to instantly have all his limbs severed from his body before he could even move. Genya, no! Tanjiro rushes over, cutting off some strands of the demon's hair while protecting his friend. This time, moon breathing attacks are sent their way, and Tanjiro wouldn't be able to move and save Genya. So, instead, he prepares to counter these attacks with his hidden technique. However, Sanemi and Guillaume arrive at the perfect time, blocking the attack for Tanjiro, as Sanemi turns back, thanking him for protecting his brother. These two then rush in together, while Tanjiro would listen to Genya, then feeding the hair to him. Kokoshibo responds with incredible defense alongside his speed, putting these Hashira on notice, telling them that they wasn't a joke at all. Guillaume then notices that Tanjiro was moving in, looking to Sanemi. If they wanted to take down this demon, they needed to act even faster, sending their respective stone and wind breathing techniques at Kokoshibo. The demon is forced to parry while evading. However, as his right foot lands on the ground, ice completely covers it. Kokoshibo's middle row of eyes then turn to see Tanjiro, while his top row sees Muchiro. In this moment, a whirlwind of crescent moon slashes send all the slayers flying back, each one hitting their respective pillar and coughing in agony. The demon first heads for Guillaume, believing that if he died since he was the strongest, the fight would die quickly. Guillaume looks ahead and smiled. Explosions then go off in front of Kokoshibo, as this was the work of Tengen Uzui, with the demon caught off guard. It was now time for their plan to go into action. Each one of the slayers moved in to strike Kokoshibo, using their slayer marks, but was instantly cut by his blade. However, we see that Tanjiro moved without a second thought, as he couldn't be sensed by the demon. Just what was the state of flow that he had certainly achieved? As of now, Tanjiro had entered the see-through world for just a moment. The demon then goes on to move, only to have one of its hands completely cut off by Tanjiro. Caught off guard, he jumps back while Tanjiro follows. His speed is increased, and he's closing the distance fast. From the other side, Muchiro cuts across his back. The robes are completely torn, causing anger to fester within the demon. The moon slashes reappear, and they must dodge once again. Kokoshibo turns to instantly parry the attack of Tanjiro. He's still increasing his speed. They seem to be getting even faster, but could that be his doing? Being pushed back by the hands of Tanjiro to the broken side of a pillar, Tanjiro looks ahead smirking. You asked me earlier where I got these earrings, but I've actually gotten them from my father and his father before him. Kokoshibo was confused because Yorichi's family was said to be killed by a demon. So was this boy a part of some secret lineage? Even then, how could he evaded, or his ancestors evaded him and Muzan throughout all these years? Just how? Wait. Kokoshibo begins thinking that it couldn't be possible actually. This boy actually wasn't related to Mushiro or him at all, or even Yororichi. Angered, Kokoshibo begins to direct all his attacks towards Tanjiro, who is able just to slowly evade them thanks to the see-through world. But even Tanjiro didn't know how he was doing this. Guillaume and Sanemi then land strikes on the demon, throwing him off just a little bit, and even snapping a part of his blade off. The fight continues, as the same would happen. Genya, with his newfound strength, shoots at Kokoshibo, and the bullets would later create trees that grow through his body. Mushiro and Sanemi would stab him, and he begins to have flashes of his previous life, of a human, until seeing the final battle of him and his younger brother. Now, his eyes seem to be adjusted to Tanjiro standing right in front of him, instantly performing the Hinokami Kagura to cut the demon down, leaving each piece of him slowly fading into ash and dust. All the slayers in the room began to sigh in exhaustion, having multiple injuries and wounds as they were bleeding, but they would have to wrap up their injuries because this fight was far from over. Here is where we get a flash to see each of the battles that had ended within the areas. We'd see crows with each group of slayers. One was in this room, then another was in the room with Inosuke, Kanao, Rengoku, and the flame Hashira was on the ground with one knee, bleeding from his head and his shoulder as he was bleeding heavily. The crows who were in the room were also with Zenitsu and Yushiro. Karaya is being guarded. Back at the base where we would see crows near him, alert him of the success of the Hashira and the Slayers so far. Just a little bit further, a little bit more. We're counting on you guys. This battle, this life, it can all be over so soon. Please, just keep pushing. The base then breaks down as Muzan is in the area, attacking people within the village, as the demon slayers who are around rush him. Each one of the Hashira has also appeared in a different location, but they were closing in as well. The first to arrive were Gyu, Rengoku, and Obanai. These three defended those in the area and performed their respective breathing styles in order to protect those in danger. With each of their demon slayer marks appearing, these Hashira were on the top of their game, weaving through the whips of Muzan and closing in on him. Gyu looks ahead, saying that if we don't do something soon, we won't make it until dawn. Out of nowhere, Guillaume's axe slams into the ground, knocking the demon off balance as it would break it. Then mist appears around him, where Muzan was struck several times, getting angered, as he couldn't even see the attackers that were currently striking him. Muzan then looks ahead and prepares himself once again. Soon, all the Hashira who were still alive arrived to the area and began putting up an even better fight. This time, one of the crows would yell out that there are 2 hours before daybreak. With the slayers knowing that they needed to hold out a lot longer, Guillaume began thinking, and for an instant, he glimpses once again into the see-through world, quickly telling everyone to look even closer if they want to win here. Just a little bit more. The slayer marks wouldn't be enough. They needed to tap into something that wasn't even human. The first to tap into this state is Kyojuro Rengoku, who then slices right through Muzan's attacks, letting a cut on his arm that was instantly healed. But it was slower, so he must be getting weaker. All of a sudden, far away, we'd see Nezuko waking up, looking around, twisting and turning, hearing the voice of her father and her mother, guiding her, telling her that her brother was in danger and he would need her help, so she must move quickly. She gets up, then begins running to the area. At the same time, Tanjiro appeared, pushing rubble off of him as he was buried in it. He looks ahead at Muzan, sending ice to hold him in place. Frost breathing, fifth form, frozen wasteland. The area around Muzan becomes ice, throwing him off balance, and Tanjiro appears to his side, slicing at his torso. Muzan dodges the attacks and tries to kill Tanjiro instantly, only to have the attack blocked by Mushiro, who would then cut off his leg. As now, his leg is instantly regenerated, but both of them stand there, giving him a glare. You two, you remind me of them so much, and you all need to be crushed like ants and be exterminated. Muzan begins to try to attack even further, and then starts to be actually pushed back, with his hair slowly becoming white. Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Kanao are then revealed by the demon, as now everyone was here, as they have to push even further beyond. Muzan, angered, then sends a whirlwind of whips around the area, cutting all the slayers. Time begins to slow down as Tanjiro turns, seeing Kanao about to be cut down, and she wouldn't be able to block it or dodge it, as we see that Muzan now stands as all the slayers in Hashira are out of commission, for the moment as well. As we then see Kanao getting up and seeing Tanjiro bleeding, Muzan then steps through the building, seeing her and turning to her. We'll start with you, holding out his hand, as Tanjiro would instantly cut off it, sending him flying with the first form of sun breathing. And with the open cut, Muzan's hatred reappears even stronger, dashing into Tanjiro. He's hit with another flashback of Yoruichi. Seeing all the forms of sun breathing right now, Tanjiro needed to think. He also wasted so many movements. If he couldn't perform it like Yoruichi, he was dead. It was almost like this man was a swordsman sent from the heavens down to change the era that they were in. Tanjiro and Muzan's face. Then, both became angry, as both of them knew what was right in front of them. These two, even after so many years, would clash again. Why couldn't Muzan rid the world of that man's presence? Still, it bothers him right now, after so many centuries of living how he wanted to. It's all come down to this, to beat this silly and stupid technique created by a mere human once again. Just how could he even do that in the first place? Muzan remembers the times that Yoruichi had killed so many of his demons, and how he almost killed him. This accursed breath of the sun. Why? Why was this the thing that haunted him so many nights and so many days as he lived? Tanjiro began trying to connect all forms of sun breathing, and as they continue to fight, Muzan's scars slowly but yet surely began to reappear. With only 50 minutes left until the sun rises, Tanjiro looks around and then sees the destruction. Gyome has lost a leg, Rengoku an arm, and Giyu was nowhere to be found, probably buried in rubble, and everyone else, he couldn't even see them, but he hoped that they were okay. Damn it, just a little bit more. Muzan then notices how the poison is affecting his body. He's aging rapidly. So how much longer could he really sustain this battle at this rate? Seeing the hearts in his arms and chest, Tanjiro began to smile. This world is truly so amazing. Yoruichi continues to guide him. All odds were in his favor once again. Attacking once more, the young Hashira would make it even further into this battle, as many others of the Hashira would arrive as well. Giyu spins into the battle, using his water breathing. With him distracted for a moment, Sanemi comes in, slicing his torso with wind breathing. All you pesky worms! Tanjiro shocks them as he performs all the forms of sun breathing again, but this time, his blade turns red because of his determination and grit, as all the remaining Hashira and Slayers follow his lead. Here, Tanjiro isn't injected with any blood at all, allowing him to stay at the height of his senses. Making their final opening, Tanjiro is then able to perform all the forms of sun breathing yet again, one after the other, without fail. Each one is more magnificent than the last. He's open for the final strike, yet Tanjiro falls to the ground, breathing heavily. His chest felt like it was about to cave in on itself. But he needed just a little bit more. Why now? How couldn't he do it? He just needed a little bit further. With him now open, Muzan goes to finish this all off, as all the other Hashira are too far away and they can't do anything. Watching on, they thought that Tanjiro was going to die. No, not yet. This is when Nezuko appears, taking the hit and getting Tanjiro out of the way. Nezuko breathes heavily as blood shoots out of her shoulder. Tanjiro, once again, looks up at Muzan, who dashes right at him to try and consume Nezuko. If I can't get the girl, then I can't conquer the sun. But if I can, I will conquer the sun, and this hellish endeavor can all be over. Tanjiro looks ahead, seeing the ghost of Yoruichi stand before the demon. What was this? What is going on? Could he be hallucinating once again? Tanjiro tries to focus on the scene right in front of him, but also notices his vision seems off, as then Tanjiro figures out that one of his eyes were slashed, as this will be a scar given to him by the King of Demons. Damn it, can I even do this? Everyone, they're really counting on me. How can I do this? I've never been faced with such an overwhelming threat. He's so strong beyond any of my beliefs, anything that I was told, anything that I could have prepared for. How can I win here? Can I even push just a little bit longer? Tanjiro begins doubting himself, his mind clouded with all the judgment, all his mistakes that he's made thus far, until Nezuko reaches out, telling her brother to go. Tanjiro can feel the hands of all his fallen brothers and sisters telling him as well. As opening his eye, he looks forward once again to now see his father's ghost standing there near Yoruichi's, guiding him. Tanjiro calms his spirit and his heart. He then takes a step, catching Muzan off guard because his flames begin to burst out, becoming red. Flowing with the movements of Yoruichi and his father's ghost, respectively, he cuts through each one of Muzan's hearts and then severs his head. Everyone in the area stood shocked. As this all happened in just a mere moment, their eyes widened at the sight of Tanjiro, moving as if they'd never seen him before. His movements were all perfect, something maybe out of a folktale or a myth. There's no way he could have done this just now. This moment of strength where he just pulled out all of these attacks. Tanjiro had reached a new level that they had never seen before, almost tapping into the strength of those slayers from the Sengoku period. Everyone, everything. The world almost stood silent for a moment. Time was frozen. Jaws were dropping. Tanjiro himself couldn't even believe it. But still, he wasn't as strong as his father or Yoruichi. But as he had cut off the head of Muzan, he was still cut across his chest. So, he falls to his knees, beginning to bleed, while coughing. Muzan's eyes, while his head was on the ground, began to focus on him as he slowly began regenerating and tries to make his way to Tanjiro. However, in this moment, they had did it. They had made it. They had outlasted everything as the sun finally began to rise. Tanjiro continued to cough. And then, Muzan screams out in pain. He tries to create an outer layer of skin to shield himself. The remaining demon slayers, who could still move in the area, begin to attack and push him more into the sunlight where he begins to burn. Nothing at all was able to stop it. This was where the King of Demons finally dies. Everyone was quiet. Then they suddenly erupt, not even believing that it was over for themselves and they were here to witness it all. A bunch of people began to cry out and cheer as all the medics soon ran into the area to tend to the wounds of the injured. Many of the Hashira had perished from this battle and gained crazy injuries, such as Mitsuri, Obunai, Gyome, and Shinobu. And the rest of them, the injuries that they had, the scars that were bared on their body, would be with them for the rest of their lives. Days later, we'd see the aftermath of such a great battle, wherein the last Ubuyashiki's son, Karaya, sat in the room with all the remaining Hashira, officially disbanding the Demon Slayers. However, here, Tanjiro would suggest creating something in order to protect the innocence of the people from any evil that could appear in the future. And so they would. Years upon years began to pass as time began to flow, and the lands became more peaceful thanks to the protection of the Ubuyashiki samurai, as even this name had transcended history, as it should. As now, we see many of the descendants of our heroes who look very similar to their ancestors. Seeing a young boy who looked just like Tanjiro, standing up within a dojo smirking. At the moment, he was being challenged by another boy who seemed to be the descendant of Muchiro. The two would stand in their respective stances and rush in while clashing the wooden blades together. This is where the story of the ice-cold Hashira would end. I hope you all enjoyed, as it did take me a while to finish the story, because I took such a big break in between. But I'm back now, as I hope you all did enjoy it, as I have a lot more interesting videos coming your way. And don't be afraid to drop any video ideas you have in the comments. My name is Zero, and if you like the content that you listened to today, consider subscribing, as my channel will now be on the road to 50K. Thank you all for everything, and I'll see you all on the next one.